Every hero in Star Wars swears they'll be different. They'll be the one to finally fix the galaxy, to stop the corruption, to end the war for good. But give them time and they all start sounding a little too familiar. Because in this galaxy, the line between savior and sinner is about as thin as a lightsaber blade. Anakin Skywalker hated the Sith's cruelty, but became their greatest weapon. Luke despised fear, but nearly killed his nephew out of it. Obi-Wan vowed peace, yet led armies into war. Even Yoda, the champion of detachment, couldn't let go of the order that doomed them all. And when the rebels toppled the Empire, the New Republic grew into the same bureaucratic mess they fought to destroy. History didn't change. It just changed uniforms. That's the genius of Star Wars. It's not a story of good defeating evil. It's about good becoming what it swore to fight. There's something painfully honest about that. Because deep down, every hero thinks they're immune to the darkness until they're standing in it. Every generation thinks they're fixing the galaxy while actually rebooting its failures. It's the ultimate cosmic joke, hope wrapped in hypocrisy. But that's why Star Wars hits so hard. It isn't just space fantasy, it's a mirror. It shows us that even with all our wisdom and courage, we're still repeating the same mistakes with fancier titles. In this video, we're breaking down how every hero in Star Wars becomes the thing they hate, why the galaxy keeps looping through the same tragedies, and what that says about the Force, fate, and us. Every hero in Star Wars starts out with the same dream: to fix the galaxy, to restore balance, to be better than the ones who came before them. But in chasing that dream, they end up becoming reflections of their enemies. It's poetic, tragic, and honestly kind of funny when you look at it. The galaxy runs on irony, not justice. Take Anakin Skywalker, for example. The boy who hated the Jedi for ignoring suffering becomes a Sith who spreads it across the stars. He wanted freedom from control, but when he couldn't control the universe, he decided to destroy it instead. His entire life was spent running from the shadow of the Sith, until he became their shadow. Darth Vader isn't just a fallen hero, he's the embodiment of the Jedi's worst fear. Luke follows a similar path, though his fall is quieter. He rejects fear, anger, and violence, only to almost strike down his own nephew in a moment of panic. It's haunting because it mirrors the very cycle he tried to end. Luke's story isn't about becoming Vader, it's about realizing that no one is immune to fear, not even the galaxy's most hopeful farm boy. And then there's Obi-Wan, the peacekeeper turned war general, the Jedi who preached calm but led battalions into carnage across 1,000 worlds. He wasn't evil, but he became what the Jedi swore they'd never be, soldiers in a political war. His hello there charm hides a man haunted by hypocrisy. The Order called it duty, but let's be honest, it was moral convenience wrapped in robes. Even Yoda falls into the same trap. The wise master who condemns attachment but clings desperately to the crumbling Jedi legacy. He spends centuries preaching balance, yet never questions if the Order itself is unbalanced. When the Republic collapses, he doesn't fight for reform. He just retreats to a swamp to meditate on his mistakes. That's not wisdom, it's resignation disguised as enlightenment. And it doesn't stop there. The rebels fought the Empire to free the galaxy from tyranny, but the New Republic ended up recreating the same bureaucracy that failed before. The Resistance became the very thing they were resisting, another army waging endless war in the name of peace. It's almost like the galaxy itself refuses to learn. Even Rey, the supposed symbol of renewal, repeats the cycle. She spends 3 movies rejecting labels, only to end by taking the Jedi name, embracing the very institution that caused so much pain. She didn't break the cycle, she rebranded it. It's poetic irony wrapped in nostalgia. Star Wars has always shown that ideals are fragile. The stronger a hero's conviction, the faster it shatters. Anakin's passion becomes obsession, Luke's peace becomes fear, Obi-Wan's duty becomes denial. The galaxy turns heroes into mirrors, forcing them to face their own contradictions. It's what makes the universe feel so real. Because in the end, Star Wars isn't about good versus evil, it's about people who want to do good, accidentally doing harm. And that's the most human story of all. The truth is, every hero becomes what they hate because they never learn how to live without conflict. They define themselves by it. and the galaxy never lets them forget it. If you trace this cycle back far enough, it always starts with the Jedi. The Order was built on peace but thrived on control. They claimed to reject power while sitting at the highest seats of it. Yoda and Mace Windu didn't just fail Anakin, they built the system that made him inevitable. The Jedi trained children to suppress fear and love, thinking that made them strong. But when you strip people of emotion, you don't make them balanced, you make them hollow. That's why their students kept breaking. Dooku, Qui-Gon, Anakin, Ahsoka, they all saw through the cracks. They realized that the Order wasn't creating peacekeepers. It was manufacturing zealots. Anakin's fall wasn't a glitch in the system. It was the system working exactly as designed. He was trained to deny emotion until he couldn't anymore. And when he finally snapped, he didn't fall into darkness. He returned to it. The Jedi created the kind of person they claimed to fear most. Then came Obi-Wan, loyal to the end. He knew the Council's decisions were flawed, but he followed them anyway. He believed obedience was virtue, even when it led to tragedy. It's hard to call him a villain, but his loyalty made him complicit in every mistake they made. That's the kind of irony George Lucas loved. Heroes failing not because they were wrong, but because they were too right to question themselves. Yoda saw all of this, yet refused to change course. Even when everything burned, he told Luke to pass on what he had learned, as if the old teachings hadn't already doomed them once before. The Jedi's fear of evolution became their undoing. They didn't lose to the Sith, they lost to their own stubbornness. And then Luke repeated it. The man who once believed anyone could be redeemed ended up isolating himself, terrified of his own influence. He became what Yoda once was, a hermit haunted by failure. Luke's disillusionment wasn't just about Kylo, it was about realizing he'd rebuilt the same flawed religion under a new name. By the time Rey shows up, the cycle's complete. The Jedi are dead, the Sith are dead, and the Force itself feels tired. Yet instead of doing something new, she revives the same order that fell apart twice. That's not hope. It's history rhyming with itself again. The tragedy of Star Wars isn't that the heroes lose. It's that they keep winning the same battle and losing the same war. The more they fight to fix the galaxy, the more they repeat its mistakes. And the Jedi, always the Jedi, remain the blueprint for that hypocrisy. So when you ask why every hero becomes what they hate, the answer is simple. Because they were trained to. The Jedi didn't build balance, they built cycles. And every generation keeps spinning on the same wheel. There's a painful beauty in the way Star Wars keeps circling back on itself. The galaxy changes, but the story doesn't. Every generation believes they're the ones who'll finally get it right. And every time, they end up making the same mistakes. It's not laziness, it's realism. Because history, even in fiction, doesn't move in straight lines. It loops. Think about the end of Return of the Jedi. Luke redeems his father. The Empire falls, and the galaxy finally has peace. At least until the Force awakens. The First Order rises, the Resistance forms, and suddenly, we're right back where we started. It's depressing, but it's also genius storytelling. Because that's exactly how power works. It doesn't vanish, it evolves. The rebels became the Republic, and the Republic became the problem again. Mon Mothma's Senate grew bloated and slow, just like the one before. Leia's resistance was treated like an inconvenience, just like the early rebellion. Star Wars doesn't show victory, it shows maintenance. And heroes are terrible at maintenance. Even the Force itself reflects that. Light and dark constantly react to one another, never truly balancing out. When one rises, so does the other. It's why destroying the Sith doesn't fix anything. It just resets the equation. The galaxy isn't a story of good triumphing. It's a story of good repeating. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the beauty of Star Wars isn't in breaking the cycle, but in acknowledging it. Because even though every hero becomes what they hate, they also inspire the next one to try again. Anakin's redemption gives Luke purpose. Luke's failure gives Rey motivation. The cycle hurts, but it also heals. When you really think about it, that's why the series feels timeless. It's not about laser swords and space politics. It's about human nature repeating itself across galaxies. Every empire, every rebellion, every Jedi. It's all just reflections of us, trying, failing, and hoping anyway. And that's what makes the ending of The Last Jedi oddly powerful. The broom boy, standing under the stars, holding his makeshift lightsaber. It's not about Rey, Luke, or Anakin anymore. It's about the idea that hope survives even when wisdom doesn't. That someone will always rise up, even if they fall into the same trap. So yes, every hero becomes what they hate, but they also become the reason someone else dares to try again. That's the paradox of Star Wars. It's not a story about perfection, it's a story about persistence. And maybe in the end, that's the Force's real balance. Not good defeating evil, but both coexisting forever. A galaxy stuck in its own reflection, beautiful, tragic, and endlessly human.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.